Welcome to Let's Talk Teens, formerly known as Let's Talk Thursdays with Dr. Keela. And I am being joined by my sister, Anitra Henry, today. And so we're going to have a sister chat about an article that she wrote recently. And the theme behind this article was rest, allow, and be. Hey, sis, welcome back.
Hey, sis, thanks for having me again.
All right, so before we get into this interview, I just want to brag about you a little bit with everyone. So, my sister has a bachelor's of business administration from the Savannah State University. She also has a marketing certificate from UC San Diego, and Anitra has a DEI certification. She was awarded the 2022 Best DEI in Communication Research Award and in 2023, the Communicator of Color Award. Well, congrats, sis, on all of your accomplishments.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get into this article. So
Mhm.
in November, you wrote an opinion piece for the online magazine Medium. And I first wanted to ask, what inspired you to write this article? Was it just the election results or a broader set of reasons?
It really was a broader set of reasons, and the apex to push me over the line to write the article was about the election results. So, if we were to talk about the broader set of reasons, a little bit about how I think is in patterns. I notice patterns pretty easily and pretty quickly. And I have been noticing a pattern with a lot of particularly women in my community. Things were happening that the average person might perceive as they're negative, you know. And I talked about this in the article, job loss, lots of change. Um, and this was something that I had noticed in talking to them and trying to be supportive of what they were going through and just listening to them. What's the purpose of this? What is the good or the sun, in the cloud, or what's it, the pot at the end of the rainbow? And then after the election, it really came to me that sometimes people need to rest. And there's a whole community, particularly of women, that I feel like are being called to rest in a number of ways. It's not just the public service piece, it's not just around being in work environments that are no longer a good fit or organizations that may not necessarily be a good fit, or relationships that no longer are working out. It is, I felt like a collective call to rest and reflect and what I call just be. One of the things that I have learned to say sometimes that I notice about people is too much doing and not enough being. And when that happens, particularly for women, there are signs that show up. There's friction, in relationships, whether they're at work, whether they're at home, whether they're socially. Illness
Mhm.
is another one that comes up. Just back to back getting sick, whether it's something small like the sniffles or something major, illness. And that is your body telling you that I need you to rest. And I think that our spirit sometimes will sit us down. Like we have all of these plans and all of this stuff on a to do list, and traffic gets in the way, and a kid's something or another causes you to have to, a kid gets sick and you got to stay home. I feel like all of those happenings might collectively be calling you to do something against what you know or feel like you're expected to do, which is to constantly be in motion and to do, versus sometimes you need to sit down and rest, just rest. And then sometimes the rest turns into an opportunity to reflect and then plan and get back into the habit of doing certain things.
Now, for all the aspiring writers out there, what is your writing process?
Um, my writing process is actually to open up a blank piece of paper, usually in Google Drive or Microsoft Word on my computer, and just get it out and not worry about it being perfect. Not worry about, oh, and I need to say this and I need to say that, and then you've got a novel instead of an article. And then once it's all out on the piece of paper, is to go back and self-edit. And when I self-edit, I think a lot about who am I talking to, my audience, and what do they already understand that doesn't need to be stated. For this particular piece, I wanted to be very specific and talk to the women who knew I was talking to them. Um, I wasn't particularly talking to men in this article. Got a lot of love for men, but this article isn't about you or for you. um, and I wanted to talk to the women for whom they were having this experience or had been having this experience and were disillusioned, confused, angry, sad, whatever negative emotion they might have been feeling about the outcome of the election, um, to provide a little bit of hope, even though I wasn't particularly feeling hopeful at the time myself. But this is an audience that for whom I didn't need to say you need to be hopeful and all of that. It was an opportunity to speak to them and say it is okay for you to feel what you're feeling. And remember, the way life works, every day isn't going to be terrible.
Right.
Um, but
That is so true.
understand it is okay for you to rest, because I don't feel like a lot of times women get that message very clearly, um, at all. It's that and I talk about this in the article, the expectation to do.
Right. So, what has been the response to your article?
Very positive, very positive response. The people that it was for totally got it and was like, you know what? Thank you so much. Yes. Sometimes people feel exactly what it is that you are feeling, but they just don't have the words to express it. And so I wanted to speak for and to them. And so that is what the response has been, is mainly thank you for putting into words exactly how I was feeling, because I was feeling like maybe I'm letting somebody down by being like, I'm done. Like, I just need a minute. No, you're not letting anybody down. You have to rest. There's this saying all the time, you can't pour from an empty cup. I feel like
Exactly.
it's been building for a while. There were a lot of people whose cups are not just empty, but bone dry. Like, there's no liquid, no wetness, whatever you fill your cup with, water, tea, coffee, wine, whatever it is. There was no evidence that there had ever been any liquid in the cup. They're just operating on autopilot. And mainly because they feel like that is what is expected of them. And for some reason, some sort of way, women have gotten the message that it's bad to rest.
Well,
You know,
sometimes I think women feel guilty if they
yes,
rest, and they may feel pressured by family members or even criticized and accused of being lazy when they're simply taking a rest.
yes,
So let's shift gears a little bit. Now, DEI is part of what you do. I mean, you have won awards for this, you've done research. How has the backlash against DEI affected you, and what's been the response from your colleagues?
um, I must say this. There are kind of three sets of colleagues, if you will. Those who are on the front lines with me doing this work, And so we all have pretty much similar feelings about the attacks on diversity, equity, inclusion. And then there are those that are on the other end of the spectrum that feel like diversity, equity, inclusion is bad and it's reverse racism or something to that effect, but are afraid to really have a conversation with us directly about it. And then there are those that are somewhere in the middle. They feel like there are pieces of diversity, equity, inclusion that might have gone too far, but they too may not be willing or are afraid to have a conversation about it. So depending on which set of colleagues you're talking about, that's where they are, right? For me, how it's impacted me personally is recognizing that it's time to rest. This fight, this work is not new. The term diversity, equity, inclusion is rather new. This has been going on since, honestly, since Black people were brought here in slavery. There's always been this uprising for rights and what's right and what's wrong based on treating someone differently because they are different in their gender, their race, or whatever, their religion, whatever other set of circumstances that there are. So with that being said, for me, when I say that it's time to rest, what you understand about this work is that it is hard. You are always fighting against somebody who feels left out, even though you're trying your best not to leave them out. Sometimes it's just a disagreement, but you've got to know when it's time to take a break and tag somebody else in. And that's the importance of having community with other diversity, equity, inclusion practitioners, or those who may not be on their face or in their title practitioners of diversity, equity, inclusion. But there are a lot of organizations that post George Floyd didn't have to come out and make a statement about what they were going to do with diversity, equity, inclusion, because they've been doing it. An example of this is I don't believe Ben and Jerry's came out and said that they were doing anything different than what they've been doing, because it's always been a part baked into the fabric of their business. So when you have organizations that don't have to come out and say one way or another, they're just going to operate the way that they've been operating as good faith organizations, then it makes it a little bit easier to point to organizations and say, everybody, it can feel like everybody's walking away from it, but they're really not. So for me, it's about making sure that I find the bright spots. It is also about understanding when it's time to tag somebody else in, which a good DEI practitioner is going to do. There are times when there's certain areas of diversity, equity, inclusion for which you're not the best spokesperson. That's when you need to open the door for someone else. This is also a time when you need to open the door for someone else when you are at the point where you're just exhausted and you need to take a break. Nobody can work, and never take a break. You will break down.
I've often said to my patients, even God took a break once a week, and we are mere humans. So what are you doing specifically to take a break? Just you for yourself.
Many things to take a break. One is shoring up my community outside of professional spheres, right? So I'm very blessed to have a big family, which you are a part of. I'm also very blessed to have a lot of friends, and knowing which ones are allies, accomplices, and true soul sisters and brothers in community, and shoring up the community. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not having conversations and socializing with people who might disagree with me. I do not want to ever create an echo chamber where I'm not listening to voices that have a difference of opinion. But in this moment, you shore up your community and you keep them close because they're all exhausted. We're all feeling this, okay. And it's not just the tiredness, it is the exhaustion from the not knowing. As one of my college roommate said, nobody likes change but wet babies, right? So understanding that as a person, yeah, this is a lot of change in a short period of time. And whether you agree or disagree with it, it's still a lot of change. Another thing is spending time doing things that I love to do. Really enjoy cruising, just got back off 2 cruises. And spending time on the water. Like water is very important to me. And that's where I feel a connection and
Very
feel like
relaxing.
my soul resets. So spending time close to water.
Now, in the fourth paragraph of your article, you mentioned the spirit of allow, right?
Mhm.
Rest, allow, and be. So, what are you doing to walk in the spirit of allow?
Stopping myself sometime from rescuing and doing and butting in, and I mean, this is gonna sound bad, helping. There's that saying, if you give a man a fish,
Right,
he'll eat for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he'll eat for a lifetime, right? Or
right,
she.
right.
He or she. And I feel like a lot of times we are conditioned to make it easy for everyone else by jumping in and just doing
And giving them the
instead of
fish.
teaching,
Right.
instead of teaching, or to the point of the article, allowing.
Mhm.
Allow some things to happen. Allow, if you can allow the spirit of, or the energy or the emotion of, I'm frustrated, I'm angry, you can also allow what comes on the other side of that, right? So, stopping myself from doing some things, also in the spirit of allowing some people to do some stuff for me.
There you go.
Uh, I would definitely classify myself as a giver. I enjoy doing for other people and seeing them be happy, but it is
Feels good to
also good to
receive, right?
receive, right?
Yes.
And to get comfortable with receiving. Sometimes you give so much because you're uncomfortable with receiving.
Mhm.
So allowing myself to get comfortable with receiving what people want to give and share with me.
Well, this is a good stopping point, and we'll be back next week to talk about the B aspect of your article. So, thank you, sis, and we'll be back next
Mm.
week for part
See you
two
next
of this
week.
sister chat.